You're listening to Until They Sleep, a podcast where two parents finally get to sit down and discuss all the different things that run through their heads every day because their four kids are finally asleep. Thanks for listening.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us again. This is Until They Sleep. I'm joined by my lovely wife, Shantelle, and I am Daniel.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. And I hope you're all having a good time, having a good day. Hope everything has been good with you guys. So let's get into it, sweetie. What we got going on?
Well, we had some books that I've been reading because of the book club that I joined, and the first book that I read for the book club, oh my gosh, I can't speak today. The first book was
Can't speak
gosh,
at all.
I cannot speak.
Blah, blah,
Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. And originally you were like, no, I'm not interested. But you did listen to it.
Yeah, I you got the Audible, so on my commute, I decided to give it a try just to see what's up. So see if we can talk or understand each other, because on the previous episode we had been talking about it, and I was kind of saying like they ripped off, was it The Last of Us?
The Last of Us is what you said.
Like, yeah, it was just a lot of things. At first, I was confused because you were saying it was like no Frankenstein, no vampires, no werewolves, no Invisible Man, nothing like that. So I was like, well, how can it be Gothic then? And then you kind of gave me the spoiler alert that it's like mushroom based, fungus based. And I was like, oh, they're ripping off The Last of Us. And so that kind of brought the curiosity in my head. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll give it a try. Why not,
Okay.
Let's see what happens. And so, yeah,
Did you enjoy the book?
it was all right. It was good.
Yeah, I remember you told me a couple times, oh, this is so boring.
Yeah, it started out a little slow for me. Maybe it was just because in my mind I was being kind of macho about it. Like, oh, it's a chick book. It's written from a girl's point of view. Like it's trying to make it sound so sensual and
I don't know. I didn't get that at all.
No, like at moments, it's just like I guess that's why women enjoy books, because women are so descriptive.
Description.
Yeah, women are so descriptive, and they like, it's kind of like watching like Japanese anime, like Dragon Ball. Be like,
You're comparing it to Dragon Ball Z?
No, I'm saying women. Like I was talking like it would take a whole 24 episodes for like a 5-minute fight. Like that's so like when women write, it's there's so when women speak or they write, they're very. They put you in that spot, they make you a part of it. Like they describe everything, the wind, the air, the temperature, and guys are just like, yeah, oh, we went over there, and yeah,
unless it's a fight scene, and then you guys are going to the description.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he gave him one left hook, and then he like ducked, right? But he ducked and moved to the right. When he came back up, he came out with an uppercut, and then Apollo was like, come on.
So definitely different genres are what attract us. And I don't know if we've said, I'm sure we've mentioned it before. Like you listen to like, was it John Carr? What's his name?
John Carr.
Yeah. And several other military based, spy based type of, Tom Clancy books. Whereas historically I don't know. I guess lately I haven't been really reading because I don't have time, or listening to books.
Right, because you're a mother of 4.
Yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, like murder mystery podcasts.
Because you're trying to find how to get rid of my body.
And I am not. And if we watch TV, we're watching some murder mystery thing.
Yeah.
Or just some other genre, right? Or horror or whatever is what we're watching. And if I do read a book, I think lately I've been reading more like self-help books or motivational books, type of things, and not really story, fantasy based things, other than if I read, oh my gosh, H.P. Lovecraft. Yes.
H.P.
And unless I read on occasion an H.P. Lovecraft poem or story.
So real quick, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you explain H.P. Lovecraft to me? Like, why is he so famous? I really so I'm showing how stupid I am here, but I really don't know who he is. I heard his name, but I've never read any of his
It's
stuff.
a lot of sci-fi as far as a writer's concerned, and he's not liked because they say that he is very racist. So a lot of people don't like him for that reason. That's my understanding.
Okay.
But I've never delved into it. So
welcome to the Weirdo Show.
But again, H.P. Lovecraft, I just read it. It's just something, it's just a book I have that I've never read completely.
Right.
So if I ever have time,
so it's just one
I'll
book.
read a story.
So he has a couple
it's
of books.
It's a collection of stories.
Stories, and it's kind of, are they kind of stories like Edgar Allan Poe? Kind of like just like essays?
They're dark.
Like short, yeah.
It's dark.
I know he has a
stories.
following. I know there's a lot of people that love H.P. Lovecraft. I never met anybody, or nobody's ever told me like, oh, this is really good. Like, listen to it or enjoy it.
I've enjoyed some of the stories, like to the point where I've told like if I really like a story that I've read, the next day I'll share it with the kids. And the kids, our kids are weird like us.
and I think the only reason why the name is so popular is, like you said, he's got that bad rap. Like but everybody in cancel culture is trying to find something to complain about right now and cancel nowadays.
So point being that, I don't really read too many things anymore because I don't have time. And I joined this book club, and the first book is this book called Mexican Gothic that you didn't want to read at first, but you have listened to. Well, I didn't read it either. I listened to it because that's the only thing I can do is really listen to books. And I never thought I would enjoy listening to books, but I really do. Like, I understand now your obsession with listening to stories.
It all depends on the reader, too.
Because, yes. Yeah, you definitely got me paying attention to that because right now I'm listening to Agatha Christie's books. And, I mean, that's something separate aside, like just for me. And, again, murder mystery. Wow, what a surprise. But I love the reader, like the guy who's reading the books. I don't remember his name, but he does all the different accents, and I love it because you can tell who's speaking next. There's another book that I have to listen to for the book club, and gosh, listening to it, I am so lost because
you don't know who's.
I don't know when the next person is speaking. I don't know when the scene has changed because the person speaking is just the same voice the whole time.
Do you find yourself dozing off? Like you don't know where you're like. What did I just listen to?
I'm
like,
totally lost on that one. Like this other book that I'll it's called. What's it called? No One Will See Me Cry. And I couldn't find. Well, I found the book for sale, but literally it was very expensive, and then I found the audio version in Spanish for super cheap, and it's actually originally written in Spanish. Okay. So I figured since I understand Spanish, I might as well listen to it in Spanish so I don't lose the translation, because when they translate books from one language to another, something is lost. Yeah. So I figured since I understand the language, I might as well listen to it in that language, but
yeah,
I'm really not loving the person reading it.
I totally completely agree with the whole being lost. So as a kid, I never cared for reading. I didn't enjoy
I'm well aware.
Yeah.
Our children neither.
and I would forget almost everything that I would read. And so, but I want to say about 6th grade or 5th grade, I discovered poetry, and I found that I really liked poetry.
It's Pablo Neruda, right? That's who you liked.
Yeah, I really got into Pablo Neruda, especially during high school. I was like obsessed with Pablo Neruda at that time. I was reading everything. I think I had everything of Pablo Neruda. And this is part of the reason why, music-wise, like I always wanted to read the lyrics, because to me, some of them were like poetry. Most of them at that era, I think there was very like really good, talented poetry, songwriting.
I agree. Like the music from
back
our
then.
Time and before.
Yeah. There's
lovely.
Stories. Stories. There's poems. There's everything being put down in there, and I know that a lot of people like hated Jim Morrison because he was always high, but like the stuff that he wrote to me, even poetry wise, like there was something so deep to me, and I've never done drugs, so it's like I can't imagine if I do drugs and then I listen to this. Like, I don't know what level is going to get me at.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be like, this is the dumbest stuff ever. Now I
Yeah,
understand why people hate it.
maybe.
But so, yeah, so Neruda. But then I remember when I was, like I was saying, in high school, and I was trying to read a book. There was a poem I was trying to find. And I started going through the books again. And all the books were translated. And so I couldn't find it. And then I found one that had it originally in Spanish and then in English. And it was just,
it's completely different.
Yeah, and it's like a song, you have a great song in English, and then you want to hear it, like you do a cover, and you're like, that's not.
Didn't you just introduce me to some band? You were showing me some band earlier who's doing covers from English to Spanish.
Yeah, but he's actually doing them like 90% accurate.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's why I was like, all right, cool. This guy's doing it right.
He's doing it right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
in a lot of books, though, you can't, you read it in the original language, and if you understand it, great. But then when you go to read it in English, it's like a screen adaptation. It changes, and sometimes it's just because there's no translation for that feeling or that conveyance that they're trying to make.
You can only imagine the people that write the books like in their original language, and it gets translated to English, or vice versa, it gets translated to their language, and they still become big successful books. Then then that's when when it's good writing.
It's a good writing. Well, that's how I think about this one I'm listening to. Allegedly, it's a very popular book. I guess it's like the No One Will Cry book's like or No One Will See Me Cry is like a college level reading. That's my understanding, is that like they use this book at universities because of how descriptive it is.
So more like a literature class kind of,
yeah.
Or English probably, or no, it can't be English, no, because that's what Shakespeare's for, English, right?
Yeah, but it's a weird story. Like what I've been able to follow from it is weird. But anyways, that's not the book we're talking about right now. We're talking about Mexican Gothic, because that's one that we have both.
Mexican Gothic. So the last time we talked about it, we were kind of like saying, like we said, it was a weird subject. That's what made me look into it and give it a chance. It started off slow for me. Snobby, you said, aristocratic Mexican girl from the 30s.
50s.
No, was it 50s?
It's in the 50s. It's supposed to take place in the 50s.
Right. So she was born in the 20s, 30s. So that's right. Yeah. That's what it was. It was weird. I guess that's the thing about books. Sometimes you kind of just go with the punches and enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
It was weird.
It's a Gothic.
It was a little Gothic. It got a little Gothic. There was a moment when I was like, I think I was listening to it at work. Like I had my earbuds and I was like on my breaks and whatever, listening to it, even at my lunch. And I was like, tell me this book has a freaking happy ending. Right? Because I was like, I don't know where we're going with this. Is getting a little frustrating. As all the characters, there's one character that I was feeling love for and pity, and I wanted that character to be happy. It wasn't the main character, but he was in the background, and I felt bad for the little chap.
I want to define briefly Gothic stories for people. Like, I don't know if everybody understands when we say the term Gothic. Gothic horror is a loose literary aesthetic of fear and haunting. So any book that has this feeling of a light fear, it's not like scary or bloody or gory necessarily. It's just there's a fear factor in the story. It feels haunting and ethereal, things happen. It's considered a Gothic fiction. Yeah. So I just want to describe that so people understand what the term Gothic fiction or Gothic books means.
Well, tell me what you thought about the book. Like, what did you like? What did you enjoy? What?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was easy to read. A+, right? Or easy to listen to. It was easy to listen to. The girl who read the story did a good job. For me, she did a good job reading the story. Because she did try to change the voice, so you knew who was talking and when. And again, it was very descriptive, so easy to imagine, what you're reading. That's definitely what I like about books, is being able to escape. And the more description there's that ability to imagine the scene, imagine the dresses that she was wearing, imagine the scenery of the landscape in which she's traveling through, and the decorations on the house and the wallpaper moving, the sensation of it. So I appreciate that aspect of the book. The story itself was fine. It was slow. It's a slow story, that's for sure. And like a lot of stories, it just it's all slow at the beginning, and then it just builds up, and poof, it's over.
Yeah.
Right. So it was kind of gross and creepy. Definitely creepy. A couple of creepy things happened in the book.
Yeah.
And that were a little disturbing if you think about mind control.
Yeah. There was a scene that I was like, oh, no, that's not cool. Because like you said, you start imagining in your head, and
Yes.
you're like, bro.
It's taking it a little far, dude. But I mean, that's part of the horror aspect, right? Is this mind control, and then for the person to pretend like, what? And nothing happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was just
It's
here
just
in
all
my
you.
quarters.
Yeah, you're the one in my quarters, type of thing.
That's funny. We both know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's that ick factor for that just creepy guy. And then there's the ick factor for the old man who's basically decaying.
Right. So yeah, there's a lot of things, guys. But I don't want to describe it too much.
I don't.
But because if you decide to read it, I don't want to ruin it for you. But yeah, definitely, like I said, like my wife said, it started off slow. There was moments when I was slow. There was moments when I was like, ew, okay, but I get it. It's part of the story. That's how you know that they're doing a good job and they're wrapping you in it. Mm-hmm. It was entertaining, like something in the background, or just to chill, kind of unwind. There was a couple frustrating moments, like, what the hell are you doing? Why? It did get me like that. I'll give it credit. There was a crazy twist that I was not expecting, and I'm usually really good at ruining plots and climaxes and everything, but there was a quick little twist there that I was like, oh, it's no way, so that made it for me. That made me enjoy it because I didn't see that part coming. I didn't see that conclusion, that putting it all together, that one missing piece of the puzzle.
And there's a lot of hints to it.
Yes.
There's that idea of that woman who becomes something else, and she's the matriarch in a way at the end of the book, when you find out who or what is creating all this. It's the matriarch.
Right.
Ultimately, it was a woman.
And definitely, even after the book was done, there's questions. You still have questions. Well, I did. I still had questions. I still wanted a couple of things. There's a couple of things I ponder, but then there's, at the same time, there was so much detail that you're kind of like, no, there's no way that could happen because of this or that. So yeah, it was pretty good. I gotta give it credit. Yeah, like you said, it's it's written by a woman, based on an era when women were expected to be a certain way and act a certain way, speak a certain way, dress a certain way, do certain things by a certain age. And then she was a young girl who was rebellious and did what she wanted and played with people's feelings and emotions. And she was a daddy's girl. She was spoiled because the dad could have, just put his foot down, but he let her.
Yeah.
Do things.
I looked at it this way. The fact that she was allowed to do whatever she wanted was part of her status, right? As an aristocrat, right? Her family was a wealthy family, and she was expected to find a husband who was going to provide and keep her, right? Keep her in whatever. And even her mom at one point, tells her, I don't know, you just need to find yourself a rich husband, and settle
Right.
into being a good wife.
Yeah.
Like, why are you trying to go to school? And why are you trying to do this? And why are you trying to do that?
I think it was also, like characters like that in TV shows, movies, whatever. There's always a dad. The dad that kind of influenced them to be like that. Or the mothers blame the dads.
Yeah,
They
I don't...
didn't quite cover it here.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a part, I think, when there was a conversation between the father, or she's describing her father, and I picked up that it was like he didn't have boys. And so the daughter was a lot like the dad.
Okay.
So then that's part of the reason
His
why
extension.
she's like that. And then because of the cousin,
Yes.
the main character that types everything, that makes it's the storyline, I guess.
Yeah.
Because of the weakness of the cousin and what she went through.
We can say names. So the main character's name is Noemi. And
that's right, Noemi.
And the cousin's name is Catalina.
I forgot her name. So yeah, Kat.
I didn't, because it reminds me of someone.
No, I just remembered. Now that you say it, it's coming back. So Kat, yeah, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, how funny, Noemi and Kat, like, Catalina and Noemi. So it was like the common names of friends, family that we have.
Yeah.
And so yeah, yeah, there's jokes in there, but
the Catalina character, her cousin,
right,
was a strong person.
yeah.
And now that she's married into
She
this
became
family,
submissive, and she lost her identity.
but she lost her identity because of what's going on in the house,
right,
and that mind control that
so it
they
had
have.
a little Last of Us, a little Resident Evil going on there. It was like he kind of It was a little Walking Dead, like.
and it's not like scary. It's just like ick.
It's not scary.
Well, it wasn't scary. It was just gross. Like, ew, that's gross. Ew, I can't believe that. What is that black sludge? Like, ew. You just imagine it. So if anybody's read this, you'll understand what we're talking about.
Is, the mind control. It's like, no, I don't want to touch you there.
And like you said, there was one character that, it's like break your heart. You feel horrible for this person. And like in the end, it's a happy ending for him.
Let me put it to you this way. Like if you ever read Outsiders, or if you saw the Outsiders movie, I would compare him kind of like with the rough macho character.
Oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name right now.
He's kind of like like one of those characters that they're there in the story, but
Francis.
Like I was saying, so he's not like a background character. He ends up being like a major part of the story, but you kind of the whole time you're kind of whatever about this guy. Like you feel sorry for him. You're wondering what the story is, what's going to happen. But almost at the end, you're like, oh crap, he is an important piece, to this chessboard. So
And he is, super important in the end, but also disposable.
Right. Yeah, but still.
I know. He's an important character, but he's disposable. I don't know. I feel like maybe we should just talk about the story because I'm just going to put it out there. I mean, I guess we'll preempt this.
This is a moment where you pause and fast forward.
And fast forward. Okay, if you don't want to know the details of the book, you can stop now and move on.
Fast forward to minute 45 because I think this is going to go for a while.
I will do a quick abbreviated version. So basically, this chick Noemi Taboada, aristocratic, 23-year-old, wants to do whatever she wants on her own terms, doesn't really want to settle down. She just wants to have fun and go to school, and ends up getting sent to check on her cousin who got married quickly to this Englishman that nobody knew anything about. And
I forgot about that part.
And his name is Virgil. And Virgil, no one knows anything about him. All they know is that he comes from money, and she got married to him quickly, and she was very in love with him, and they were gone. She raised her uncle because her parents passed away, and she was raised by her uncle and aunt, that she feels like she's going crazy in the house, and she needs help, and somebody would come and get her or help her. So this is why the cousin Noemi goes to see her. And while she's there, she meets Francis. He's the one who picks her up from the train station or from the little town. And in this house, she has to meet the rest of the family. So Virgil is the husband of the cousin. There's Mr. Howard Doyle, who's the patriarch of the family. There's Florence, who is Howard Doyle's daughter, and Virgil's sister, I think. Is that Virgil's sister? I think it's
Yes.
his sister. And Francis is Florence's son. So this Mr. Doyle guy, he's like super old, kind of falling apart, like on his deathbed kind of character, but he's still the patriarch of the house, and his daughter Florence runs the house. Everything has to be a certain way, and she makes sure that everything is a certain way. Virgil, the husband of her cousin, is very handsome, very charismatic. Like everyone who meets him loves him. But Noemi thinks he's handsome, but she's repulsed by him at the same time. Like something about him she just does not like.
Think Lestat.
I don't see that. I don't see Lestat when I think of this guy.
I do, because it's the way he body language, the way he stands, and his charm.
So you're talking about his mannerisms.
Yeah, mannerisms is very Lestat-ish.
Maybe. I have this very specific character in my head that I do not know the actor's name. I'll have to research it, but
Is it Doctor Strange?
it's not Doctor
Is it Brad Pitt?
Strange. It's not Brad Pitt. He's from some other goth type movie that we've seen. But while she's there and she sees her cousin's like now acting normal. So she's like, what the heck?
Briefly.
Yeah, briefly. And then as time passes, Noemi starts to feel weird. She starts to have weird dreams. And in these weird dreams, Virgil is showing up in her dreams and trying to violate her. And she finds herself walking through the place and she ends up in his room or bumps into him. And she feels like she's just woken from dreams and she doesn't know what the heck she's doing or where she's going. And he acts like it's no big deal. She swears that the walls are moving, like the patterns in the walls are moving. And this kid, Francis, he knows everything about the fungi in the area. And her cousin finally asks her to get her some medicine from the town. And she goes to get this medicine for her. She finds out all this crazy stuff about this Doyle family, this English Doyle family, and how they're basically haunted. They're like a weird haunted family. They took over the mines. All the miners died. All the miners died or left because of what was going on at the mines that these Doyles owned. And now it's just the family, and the family is going poor. So they marry rich so that the family continues to have money. Mm-hmm. And bottom line is that the whole plan for the family is to keep Noemi there and make her Francis's wife. But she didn't agree to any of this. So she's been trying to escape the whole time. And they ultimately, the Mr. Howard Doyle, when he's about to die, he's actually transferring his essence of black goop into the body of Francis.
Body snatcher.
Body snatcher style. And, she's witness to this. And she's finally gotten her cousin, to some level of consciousness to where she tries to kill Mr. Doyle, and they all try to escape. And when they try to escape, they end up in this tunnel that leads down into underneath the cemetery, and they find the first wife of Mr. Doyle covered in fungus or fungi, and all these fungi are branching out from her body into the ground, and she's basically still alive after all these years of being underground with this fungi that is keeping the family or keeping the patriarch alive and keeping them all connected. And it's super, there's a lot more to digest there, but that is a quick this is what happens in the story. So the grossest part for me being when Mr. Doyle, he spits up in her mouth this black sludge to
start the mind control.
Yep, start the mind control, like take real hold of her before she has to marry Francis. And the whole thing is him transferring him into Francis would mean that she was married to him. Mr. Doyle, and that's how he lives forever.
So, real quick, since we're still talking about it, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were going through it, but I'll just give you a quick little things that were left out that I think were important. There's a lot of sacrifices going on. There's a couple weird sacrifices. Somebody having a baby and what they do with the baby and what they do with the body of the mother and everything. That was like, whoa. I could have never imagined something like that. I was like, this is like Guillermo del Toro status right here. And then the whole miners thing was also kind of crazy what they do to some of the miners. But there was a thing that I think some people might not be ready for. I'm not expecting it. Like I said, there are things that stood out to me that kind of grabbed my attention. So there was like the sacrifices. There's the process of, the fungus and describing type of different funguses and how it works. And it's kind of like there's hints there. They're prepping you for what might happen, giving you like a history lesson of what's going on. But I think for me, the part that like had me laughing and intrigued, and I was like, I can't believe this book is as popular as it is, with how people are nowadays when they're talking about genetics. They're really big in genetics. Borderline sounds kind of very Nazi-ish. And then how they describe the Mexican DNA.
Yeah.
How they describe a lot of the native people that have been diluted by Spanish blood or, European blood. And characteristics and features that some people get.
Eugenics is what
eugenics, yeah. So I was like, I agreed with that section. It was interesting. It was educated.
What do you mean you agree with it?
Well, like the history of it, like why certain people look the way that they look, why certain people are the way that they are. Part of the history of of the French and the Spanish being in Mexico, and why there's social classes and discrimination and that country till this day. It's a thing. But we're talking about the 50s, right? So it's crazy that even back then, and now this family that her cousin married into, obviously they're white, and the way that they describe themselves like a superior race, and how they do not want to dilute or affect their genes,
their inbred genes,
but
they have to, and that's why.
So they are looking for people with strong genes,
basically
will, strong something that's going to help them survive.
It's not just that; it's people who can withstand the fungus, the change, because they've tried it with others.
Yeah, body snatching.
Yeah, they've tried the body snatching,
imperfections,
and many people have died.
Which is why I'm saying kind of Nazi-ish in a way, because they're worrying about genetics and breeding and mixing it in, because experimenting with natives or lesser,
who they deemed less,
right, and it's no more different than what the Germans did, right? So that was like, okay, wow, like this is just kind of crazy, like
the way he talks about it.
Yeah, and at the same time, like you're reading this, and you can tell that the main character is like getting worked up about it and offended by it, which sometimes it kind of I imagine it catches some of the readers to, especially they're like Hispanic, that they're like, oh, like, yeah, I would be angry to hear somebody talk about me.
But she always
like that.
keeps her composure.
She does to them on the outside, but not fully, because they're still picking up on it. Right?
Yeah.
But in her inner monologue, which we're a part of, we're seeing that it's getting to her.
Well, but because she's so defiant by nature,
right?
She doesn't let them see that it affects her. So she has quick comebacks, and she holds her composure no matter how much it bothers her, because she doesn't want to show them. But because of their inbreeding for so many years, this power that they've had is going away. The genetically, they can't have kids anymore. Like within their family, like they were inbreeding, there's no more kids. So that's why the daughter left to marry an outsider, and that her husband went crazy, and Francis is a product of that.
And then that's why they saw Francis also as a weakling, because he wasn't the inbred. He already had DNA from outside.
Yeah, but he was able to withstand it. So
No,
with
yeah, yeah.
what? So the breeding, the daughter going out to find somebody else was to renew the genetics in the family with someone who with a genetic stream that could withstand the process. And Francis, as weak as he may be, is the chosen one for as a new body for
Yeah, my
Mr. Doyle,
grandfather.
for the
Yeah.
grandfather. Right, and that's how he lives forever, is he goes into a family member. Francis was going to be that family member. And then for them to continue the strength and breeding or genetics, they picked strong women. Despite the eugenics and whatever they were thinking, they had to mix up the blood, at least for a while, to be able to get the genetics to tolerate the change again. So they wouldn't keep losing the babies that were being eaten.
Oh yeah, I was trying to leave that out, but you already went there. So that's what I'm talking about, sacrifices there. So yeah, so
How do you feel about the ending?
it's like a typical movie. It was like all this climax, all this build up, and then
And it's like,
like too quick.
Yeah, it was very quick, a very quick ending.
Like that's what she said. But yeah, no, it was entertaining. It was cool. I mean, we could relate. We had a conversation about it. We kind of. I mean, we're still talking about it.
I'm reading. I see some discussion questions on here online, and one of the questions: if you're a goth fiction fan, pick out some of the gothic elements that are incorporated into this story. And then they refer to other gothic fiction as Daphne du Maurier, Emily Bronte, and Mary Shelley. Now, we know Mary Shelley for sure, right, with Frankenstein. Is there any aspect of Frankenstein that you see in the story?
Kind of a little. I mean, the fungus is kind of like a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a creation.
That eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole aspect of that, the whole, the graveyard.
Yeah.
The whole graveyard, like just wrapping people up and still alive and putting them in there so that the main fungus can
continue to live
in that, and it collects their memories and stuff like that. It's like it's a bad experiment.
And that's why you say it's like
The Last of Us.
The Last of Us, right? Because the fungus has a collective
It's
memory.
it's all connected, and they communicate through all their memories and feelings and emotions. No matter how far it is, they know what's up.
When we had our meeting, I mentioned that show, I think it was on Netflix, called Other Worlds or Alien Worlds or something.
Netflix.
And it was the kids and I watched it, but in that show, there's a fungus that takes over monkeys or whatever, the monkeyish, the monkey-like creature that's on these planets. It invades them, like they die, and it grows out of them. Like the spores kill them, and then it grows out of their bodies, and that's how it survives. And it's
bacteria.
like a network. Yeah, it's not a bacteria; it's a fungus.
Bacteria.
They're not the same thing.
They work the same way.
No, it's not the same. But the fungus is, and we know that in the real world, here on Earth, there's this fungus that attacks insects and grows out of insects. Like it eats them from the inside out. So it's like a real thing. Just in this story, they made it, like you said, like Last of Us, attack the humans. It just doesn't disfigure them, doesn't turn them into mushroom monsters.
Yeah.
Right? Because on The Last of Us, like everyone gets disfigured, right? Once the mushroom takes over.
Yeah, they do.
Whereas in this story, that doesn't happen. In this story, it's in their blood and it's what connects them to one another. So like the mind control is there from the patriarch. Like he can control all of his children because of this fungus. Like his connection in the blood, because it runs in their blood. It's in the air. It's all around them at all times. It's in the ground. So anyways, that's Mexican Gothic. Did you have anything else to say about it?
Give it time. If you decide to listen to it or read it, stick through it. Just go with it, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it. I was very against it. I wasn't really excited about it, but at the end, I did enjoy it. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 5, I want to give it a 3.5. Like, it was enjoyable.
Okay.
Like, it was okay. I mean, I'm not like
Wow, the
like
best.
wow, do this, do that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, pushing maybe a 4. You know, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. It was good. It was good.
Okay.
What about you?
I'd agree with you. I guess it could be maybe about a 4. I enjoyed it. Ultimately, I enjoyed it. So that's fine. Yeah, a 4. I'll give it a 4.
A 4. Okay,
Yeah.
a little higher than me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, you would recommend it to other people?
If you like Gothic stories, like if you like
Right.
that type of story, yeah, I'd recommend it.
Now, would you read it again, or would you listen to it again?
Yeah, I would listen to it again. Just, sometimes you reread or re-listen to something, you catch things that you didn't catch the first time for XYZ reason. So yeah, I would do it again. And then like I said, we had a good conversation, I believe. The conversation with the group was more, about women's role in that time frame and how gross it was, some of the things that happened in the book. And
so that was my one thing, and that I can make a joke about it is you joined this book club. You're new to it, so I'm kind of curious to see what else they've read before, because from this book, Mexican Gothic, to the new ones that you're supposed to read next, I've noticed that is it just coincidence, but is it all just like women authors? Is it all
so far,
women power? Like, is this a group of angry wives?
I don't think so, but they really did like
wives.
that wine when I took it.
That there is, it just feels like that. Like, I know it's part of the good storytelling and to like give you a background on the character and let you know, but it just feels like the era that they're picking is during eras of when women were really, subjected, put down, judged. And I know that it's part of the history, and I know that's how it was. But at the same time, it's kind of like, in a way, I get it. It kind of contradicts itself, because certain things wouldn't happen or be set like that because of that time or that era.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think when this question was asked in the group, I can't say, I know that it's wrong, or it's not socially accepted to think that any of that was okay back then, but that was back then.
Yeah.
And we're not back then anymore. So for women to be oppressed, to say, oh, the women were oppressed or the women weren't allowed to do this, some women liked it. Like, an example was her mother.
Yeah.
Her mother was just like, why are you overthinking it? Just get married and live your life like however you want to with your husband's money. Like, her mom was like, what's wrong with this lifestyle? Like, that's how I felt. And there
Right.
are women like that. And
But it works both ways, right? Because there's men too. I mean, I'm not talking about like
not
that.
back then.
No. There's men. It can be used in any other aspect. Like, like you're saying, there's women that are like, I'm fine being a housewife and taking care of my kids and my family and using my husband's money or whatever. Then there's guys also that are like, I don't see nothing wrong with being married and having a family. And then there's men that's like, no, like, live free, have fun, whatever.
Yeah.
It's both aspects, right?
But that's
society,
nowadays versus back then.
No. But that's what I'm saying. No matter what, it's always going to be like that. There's
Yeah.
people that, oh, my wife, my life sucks, or oh, woe is me. And then there's people that's like, I like how much it sucks. I want it harder.
Yeah.
It's just who you are, your personality. And I know it's different eras, different things. That's why when we made those jokes about, previously, we were talking about time management, that we're like, oh, we're talking about groups and everything, or managing time and the frustrations and everything. But then even back then, we made the comment earlier where people were like, that's life. Like,
Yeah,
suck it
you
up,
just
deal with
suck
it.
it up.
Like,
You got 10 kids you got to take care of. You got 10 kids you got to take care
right,
of. And your husband also needs to make enough money to maintain those
right,
10 kids.
yeah,
So it was a tit for tat, right? It's your job to bring in the money to support your family, and it's my job to raise them
right.
into good humans, into decent humans. Did it always happen? No. And now we live in a society where men and women both work. Children are not watched after as much.
Right.
And are we really in a better place for it?
Are they not watched, or I think they're overwatched now?
No, I don't think they're not. There's no discipline
Yeah, definitely.
because the
There's no
parents
discipline.
aren't around to discipline them.
No, I don't think it's just not being around. I think it's different. I think it's there's a lot of people have issues. Like so you're saying back then parents were more like lenient, like, hey, go play, do whatever, but be home by when the light comes out.
But I'm not.
Right?
Yes,
You know,
yes
do your
and no,
thing, but come home.
but there were a higher level of expectation back then because each gender
Right.
had expectations of it.
Higher gender. Okay, so then
Okay.
when they became parents, because of those expectations, with those judging eyes,
Yes.
now they're like, oh no, I'm not gonna do that with my kid. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna help them with this. I'm gonna help them with that.
But that's what's changed.
And then that's when you start over sheltering people.
Yeah, well, but that's not what we're really trying to talk about right now. That we're trying to talk about
No,
the
no,
fact
no, I'm
that
just saying.
in these
I was
books
just
are
saying,
written
yeah.
in a time where we now, oh, those women were oppressed. No, they weren't necessarily oppressed. She was born into a life of privilege, and she could do whatever she wanted because of that privilege. She didn't have to get a job. Her parents wanted her to find a husband so she could continue to live that life of privilege.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there's differences on like the character. So like, okay, so we started. You finished one of the other books because on the next book, Krilla, you had two books to read.
But let's finish.
No, hold on. So I'm just getting it because I'm bringing it up because it's all women based, right? Mm-hmm. And it also deals with. I'm not saying that it's right because yes, women have gone through a lot of stuff. Like, women have been oppressed, and women were expected to be a certain way and everything.
But men also were expected to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Men were expected to provide.
Okay.
Men were expected to, well, provide, honestly, and be model citizens of the society.
Right.
Right? That's a big chunk for a man to take on, while the woman, and I'm not trying to belittle what women had to do. Women were in charge of their house, and women were in charge of their children and making sure they got to church and making sure that they looked clean and neat and the house was clean, while the husbands were out making money.
Right, exactly. So if you wanted a man to do all that for you, then the women should be doing that too, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're supposed to provide for all that stuff, right?
Exactly. But I'm talking about in the story Mexican Gothic. We'll get to the other book in a minute, but in Mexican Gothic, trying to say that she was oppressed in any way, I don't think works because she was privileged. She was rich.
But see, that's
So the story would have been very different if it had been some housekeeper.
Yeah, right. But this is where I kind of like, this is where it contradicts for me, right? They painted this character to me. They talked about this character who is a Mexican woman, right? And they even the bad guys in the book are kind of putting her down because of her
skin color.
Yeah, her skin color, right? Her native look, right? Like, I'm Mexican, so I know how judgmental social status is, and I know how skin complexion is, and like somebody of that description would not be allowed to be like that. And culturally also, like by cultural bias, like they would never act like that, you know, because the paler skinned people, the more uppity people that came from money, that came from, you know, more
and
European
she's
blood.
new money.
Yes.
She's new money.
She wouldn't get away with all that she did. She wouldn't be allowed to talk like that. She would be definitely kicked out of those clubs, you know, not allowed in them. They will mock her and make fun of her. And maybe if they concentrated a little bit on that, it would justify also her character of being so strong-willed and
but she comes
contradicted.
But she comes across as a snotty brat.
Yeah.
That's what she comes across as. So that's why if any woman tries to say, "Oh, the expectation of her having to find a husband so that, I'm like, she's born into money. Like, she's money. Her family is money. She doesn't have to
Her
work.
family has money.
Yes, but that's why they want her to marry
Right,
into
right.
money.
So they can have more money.
So she can keep that lifestyle.
Right, yeah.
She wants to study. She wants to do this. She wants to travel. She wants to have fun, because ultimately she's trying to have fun. She's not trying to settle down. But that's something that someone with money can do. Mm-hmm. If she had been the housekeeper, if she had been some laundress, the story would have been very different, because now it's a middle class person having to work, having to, or maybe stay home with her children, or she has to, she's cleaning these people's house. But you can talk about women's expectation and oppression and all that stuff if that had been her case. It wasn't.
Yes, but what I'm getting at, it was her case, because they were uppity. The other family was rich, and they would tell her, it's like, a woman should not have an opinion. A woman should be quiet.
Yes, okay.
When we sit down and eat, you're quiet. You don't talk. The men talk.
That's right. And they were British.
But they were uppity, right?
Yeah.
And they came
they're
from
old money. They're
exactly.
old money.
They actually came from money and money and money, while she's new money. So those manners don't exist, because there were peasants before that. Her dad made the money. He didn't come from the money. He started from the bottom, and he made the money, right? So then she's new to money, right? But her family's new to money. So the manners, because they're not actual, like, blue blood.
Yeah.
They're not actual blue blood. So that's why they look down on her. Like, already off the bat.
You're talking about the Doyles looking down on her.
But even the
people, within her society, she wasn't looked down upon.
I wouldn't say that. But that's okay. Maybe in the book they don't cover that. But I'm saying they're realistic.
Yeah, realistically, you're saying.
Those are my issues with the book. These are my like, that doesn't make sense. Like, that era, that time, what you're talking about. Like, no way. There's no way that a person like that would hang out there. There's no way a person like that will be allowed to do that or say that or do. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes, I get
That's my thing.
Yeah,
like, that's my issue. They're trying to make it like, oh, woman power, or whatever. And I know that's why I was saying the author tries to give you a little bit of background and justify it. So you're like, all right, I'll go with the punches, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But when you know how it is and you've seen it or you've heard about it, or you're like, no, there's no way. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. And you're saying because of her skin color,
new money,
she would have never been allowed to act the way she did, or she would not have been accepted the way they made it seem in the story.
Yeah.
And then that whole eugenics thing falls into place, because now she's going into the household of old European money, mm-hmm. and they're white, and how they look down upon her for her brown skin. But they need her genetics, her strong will to be able.
Her will.
They need her strong will to be able to handle this.
And for them, it made it attractive.
That's what made it attractive. Yeah,
that's what made her attractive. Her strong will.
It wasn't her skin color.
Right.
It was her will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and her ability to withstand this. Mm. So, anyway, and that's just like, you're trying to talk about this women power thing, because in the next book that we're reading is Lessons in Chemistry, which I've already listened to as well, and we've also watched the Apple TV show together.
Yeah, we heard about that, so we checked it out. I guess we can talk about that one down the road. But yeah, but there's another one but this is from a different aspect.
Aspect.
And so far, like, the show was enjoyable. I mean, it wasn't bad.
I really enjoyed this book.
I told you, you told me you were like, I enjoyed it. I was surprised when you're like, I'm done. I was like, what? Like, you must have really liked it, because you killed it.
I listen to this book every day.
3 days, mm-hmm, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I found out about the TV show, so we're like, all right, so please, let's try to watch the show and try not to be judgmental and criticize it the whole time, because it was a TV show, and experience has taught us that nothing matches. They take liberties, or they don't have the rights to do certain things that they did on the book. And I was like, and I'm going to do it the opposite. I'm going to watch the show and then I'm going to listen to it and then we'll talk about it. So then there can be a future episode from there. But it was interesting. I enjoyed the show. I like the actress in it, Brie Larson. I enjoy her. I think she's a pretty actress. But I was like really concerned for her in the show. I was like, oh my goodness,
she's so
like,
dang skinny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It went from she thinking she was pretty to I was like, oh girl, let's go eat a burger. I'm like, oh yeah, let's be friends.
Oh, and that reminds me that Mexican Gothic was supposed to be adapted.
Oh yeah, okay.
And as of this year, nothing has moved forward. Like in 2020, they were trying to Kelly Ripka and her husband were trying to get the book adapted, and because of COVID, it all kind of fizzled and nothing else has happened.
I bet that took a lot of the whole pandemic had a lot of effect on
a lot of things
and everything. Everything. Businesses and everything.
Yeah.
So that sucks. It'll be interesting. Honestly,
I would definitely be interested to see how they adapt Mexican Gothic. I think they could do. We've seen many beautifully done Gothic stories, and I would just love to see it. How they, get the wallpaper to move in.
right. The little black areas, the little mold areas.
Yeah,
and stuff like
just
that.
in my head I could imagine. I'd love to see that on screen, and her dresses, and I can't imagine who they would cast for any of this either.
When I was listening to it, like for 3/4 of the way, I was like, "This is like straight up like Guillermo del Toro kind of."
Okay.
Like visual effects in my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, I this needs to be like I don't know if she's a Guillermo del Toro fan and just try to write something that he would do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of like all right, cool.
And then back to lessons in chemistry. You're saying it's like
We're not talking about that now.
I know, but you're saying it's like a 50s. Because it's also set in the 50s.
Yeah, it's also set in the 50s.
And it's like women's power, but this happens here in the U.S. And
right. Which is funny, right? Because like you said, it's the 50s, and it starts out in the 50s, and it's trippy because that to me that's the 50s. Like that's what the 50s.
Not
like.
what they were describing in the Mexican Gothic.
The Mexican, it makes me feel like it's still like the late 1800s.
Yeah, and it's so funny because even when we were in the club, I was like. We were all for a minute, even though right in the front of the book it says it's a 1950s story. We're like, when does this book take place? Because it feels really old. Yeah. Like it feels
old. House, old. And I get it that it makes you think that because it takes place in an old town where there were miners.
Yeah.
And the road is dirt.
Yeah.
And the weather affects getting in and out.
Yeah. And her type of clothing was like, well, that's kind of like 50s style clothing.
The way that they describe that dude, that name. Well, not the main bad guy,
Virgil?
But the son.
The main bad guy?
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying with that. Because in my mind, I'm picturing this guy with that type of half vest,
and
tail,
I just don't picture Lestat because I don't see Tom Cruise as this character at all.
I'm talking about Tom Cruise. I'm just talking about Lestat, period. Like when I...
little
bit that I listened to of Interview with a Vampire on the
book.
Yeah.
Like in the book, he's beautiful. Not... Tom Cruise. He's not Tom Cruise.
I tried to watch that new TV show and I just couldn't do it. No.
Yeah, we didn't get very far. No. But Lessons in Chemistry, I did read the book and
it's good. We'll talk about that one later.
We'll talk about it later.
So like my wife said, she's read it. She's watched the show.
I have a lot
of
opinions.
She had a lot to say. I enjoyed the show.
We'll go from there. And then again, there's this other book, like I said, that I'm listening to, the No One Will See Me Cry, or Nadie me verá llorar.
Yeah, you told me a piece of it, and off the bat, we started kind of arguing because you're like, oh, I was like, no, during that time and era, men were allowed to do this. And that,
like I said, I'm also very confused because I can't tell I can't tell who's talking and... when it switches from one character to another just because of the way the person's reading it. So that kind of sucks. I might have to re-listen to it. And it also, there's so much description. Like, it's very descriptive. I think I have to pay attention. Like, I really cannot be...
This is another woman author, right?
Another woman author.
So this is 3 female authors. Yeah. We have... is the main character a female?
No, it's a man.
Okay, so that's a
The
different.
main
Okay,
character is a man.
We got a twist.
Yeah, the main. You could say the main character is a girl, but it's really the guy and his story about this girl. It's yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get into
I'm
that
not.
later.
I think I'm like halfway through it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Wow. All right.
so that was Mexican Gothic.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening to it, so we could have a discussion. And yeah, I need to read one of your books.
Yeah, and if you guys listen to it or read it, or are thinking about it, or you're interested and you want to reach out, feel free to talk to my wife about it.
Yeah, or you, because you've listened to it as well. So
yeah, I don't think people want my point of view.
I don't know. I think why not?
And I know most guys would be like, no. You know what? That's one thing. Okay, we're gonna go a little longer now. So that's one thing I've noticed. A lot of men from my age group down don't read. Don't.
You guys all do Audible.
No. I mean, period. Like,
okay,
it's not a thing. Like,
but then why are those like Clancy and car books popular?
Those are.
Who's reading them? It has to be guys. I don't think women are reading
they're
them.
older ex-military people.
You think so?
And I think there's something about being in the military that actually does make you read, because you don't always have TV. You don't always have access to the internet or anything. Like, there's moments when that's taken away. And so the best thing to do when you have downtime, it's either work out or read, and there's times when you can't sleep, so you start reading. I know that's how I started with the Tom Clancy stuff. I was a kid. I never cared to read. It wasn't my thing. I mean, what I read, like I said, was poetry. Like Poe and Dickinson.
Oh, what's his first name? Carr's first name?
Jack Carr.
Oh, Jack.
And I think that's the other thing. He's an ex-Navy SEAL guy, so people are kind of curious to see what he has to say. And I think when people make it to the Joe Rogan podcast and they talk there and they become a popular, when there are a certain group of people that know each other, that people are influencers or follow, that people are curious, because that's what it was for me. I was like, Jack Carr, who's this guy? Oh, he sounds interesting. Oh, he's a Navy SEAL. Oh, okay. Oh, he's friends with Jocko. Oh, he knows Goggins. So I was like, oh, all right, I'll give it a try. This is the first book. I was like, damn, this is good. This is enjoyable.
He's considered a thriller author.
But the thing with Jack Carr for me is, like, we talk about this. I grew up watching Magnum PI, right? I grew up. Magnum PI was a big part
Your
of my
father?
life. Yeah, my mom was in love with Tom Selleck, and she used to tell me that that's what men should look like and act, and that there was a high chance that he was my real father. Now,
based on how many times she dreamt about him.
Right? Yeah, I imagine. And Mom, and then I started watching. It was part of my childhood. I grew up watching Magnum PI. So then now I started reading Jack Carr books, and I'm like, wait, that's a Magnum PI episode, or that's what Magnum did. You know what I mean? Like, there's things about it that are Magnum PI. And then later on throughout the years, he's admitted to it. It's like, yeah, I was a big Magnum PI fan. And
he did?
Yeah. And you're like, okay, cool. I wasn't going crazy,
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the same time that his books have to be checked by the Pentagon
before
they're released.
It says right here, Jack Carr has to submit his manuscripts to the Department of Defense for approval in case he talks about national security sensitive subjects.
Right. And then you start tripping out because there's, I think it was the third book where there's so much redacted stuff. And you're like, how close to real are these books that the government's afraid of it? They have to read it. And you write what you know, right?
Yeah.
So he's writing the stuff, and I'm sure he's memories or missions or something that he's lived. He's kind of making it kind of as into a story, but the government has to approve it. And then the small was like, nope, that's accurate. Redact it. No, redact
that's
it.
too much.
Somebody can put it together. Yeah, redact it. So, So, that's awesome.
So now I need to read one of your books, even though I think we've watched every series or every movie. Which ones are the ones that we watch, the series? Are those Jack Carr or Reacher?
We were watching Reacher. Lately, we were doing the Reacher ones.
Okay.
I just started the books.
And Jack Carr movies?
No, Jack Carr started a TV show also. We saw season 1. That was with Chris Pratt. That was the Terminal List.
Okay.
That was Jack Carr.
Okay.
And it was awesome because I was a total nerd about it. I was like, oh, I can't wait for this show. And it came out, and I remember staying late watching it. And I was like geeking out when I saw him. I was like, oh, there he is. I saw him. And I'm like trying to send him a message on, what he's formerly known Twitter. Like, I still saw you, episode 3, blah, blah. But yeah.
Okay.
It's different. Like you said, it's different, different stuff.
It's a different
You're
style.
Gothic. Mine's like military action.
But like you said, I'm a girl, and we like beautiful, haunting descriptions. Right. I mean, I read Interview with a Vampire when I was 12.
It's
definitely not something a 12-year-old should be reading. Yeah, People, do not let your 12-year-olds read an Interview with a Vampire.
It's kind of like I've been watching these whole new shows, and they're adult shows, obviously. No kids around, but I'm laughing because like the love scenes or the dialogue. I was like, oh, this is a woman director. I can tell. There's no way.
A guy
will be talking or saying this, like there's no way that this love scene will be like that. Like this is catered for
women,
like for women, like like oh.
Is that how you feel about Outlander?
Outlander, okay. I hate everyone that has watched Outlander, knew about Outlander,
and didn't tell you,
and knows me, and has never freaking mentioned this shit to me, okay? I straight up was like, that's a chick show. I'm not watching that, blah, blah, blah. People, it's got nonstop bagpipes. They're speaking Gaelic. Men in kilts.
Bloody and dirty.
Beard.
Right up your alley.
Say what they mean and what they say, straight to the point. Yeah, I mean everything. So for the heck of it, I was like, hey, I'm curious. I want to watch Outlander. I think it's a show for girls. Like, would you mind watching this for me, babe? And she's like, no, I'm curious. And we watched it, and yeah, it's kind of girly-ish, but it's good. I can see why there's so many freaking people obsessed with this thing. But I'm upset that people were like, never thought about this and said, hey, man, I think you will like that show. Or maybe it's because the guys are kind of like, I can't admit that I watched this show.
Well, like the ladies I hang out with, they've watched, like we even had Outlander whiskey when we had our...
They have whiskey?
They have whiskey.
What the?
I mean, I know.
Is it kind of like the...
I think, I don't know that it's Outlander whiskey, but I think it's like the guys, someone on the show has a whiskey that they make, and...
I'm like, is it going to make everybody want to be like Scottish now?
Probably.
Kind of like Yellowstone made everybody want to be a cowboy. Oh my goodness. I feel bad because my kids like, okay, I watch Yellowstone because it's about, cowboys, so obviously I'm going to watch it. But it's funny because even my kids like, Dad, look at this. It says Yellowstone's like, put that down. Like, yes, I'm pretty sure it's cool, but no, we're not. It's kind of like when Sons of Anarchy was out and everybody wanted to be a biker and everybody had that bike and I was like,
oh my gosh, I remember those days. Jesus. I think our son asked me about Sons of Anarchy a couple months ago.
Oh man, I was surprised nobody started wearing suits and my messenger hats, with razor blades in them.
Oh, with Peaky Blinders. I'm sure somebody somewhere did. I know you wanted to.
I just laughed that there was like so many people so many years later. They were talking about it. Oh, have you seen this? I was like, dude, that show's old. Hey, I'm right here.
It's okay. You love Cillian Murphy too.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Well,
not as much as I love Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah, that's true. I don't love him.
And Tom Hardy's in that show, so
yeah, he is. Well, he's just. I mean, they're just good actors. Anyways, that's a wrap.
The only reason
I think we're good.
It's because I wore those hats.
Yes, you do wear those hats. Those Kanga hats.
I used to. Yeah, they used to be Kangos. Yeah.
Kangos, whatever. But thank you for conversing with me about Mexican Gothic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, thank you for sticking around and listening to us, and I hope you enjoyed it and you're interested by it. And we're like always, we appreciate your guys spending the time with us.
Yeah, and maybe one of these days I'll do an episode with the ladies to get their recorded take on something.
Yeah, it'll be fun to listen to some drunk.
They're not drunk. Ladies. You swear that we got all drunk. They just had.
I'm just joking.
4 bottles of wine.
4 bottles of wine.
6 bottles of wine.
But you told me at the end it was a big group, right?
It was, like 9 of us, I think.
Yeah, that's more than I expected. 2, 3, I hear book club, I usually think
9.
4 or 5.
There was 9 ladies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 9 ladies. And we're going to rotate to somebody else's house. And whoever's house it is gets to pick the book. I don't know what I pick. I'm going to tell them to mix me.
Outlander's books, too. So
Outlander's book, yeah. I'm going to tell them to skip me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I would suggest, so... But I'm happy.
I got some books for you.
You have me refer some military books?
No, I really think... No, you're right. Nah, I was going to say...
I'm gonna refer a self-help book.
Oh, I got a book for you.
I got a couple books.
Yeah, I got a couple books, really good ones. Yeah.
Well, that's all for tonight. You guys take care. Thank you for listening. And we'll talk to you next time.
All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.